everybody, it's me, Steve Schnee, the CD Junkie. On this episode of CD Junkie, I'm going to be talking about one of Liverpool's greatest bands from the 90s. Yes, I'm talking about the band Space. Now, just let me tell you about Space. They are completely unique, eccentric, eclectic, and sometimes they can get pretty dang wacky weird, but they're always wonderful, and their albums are always riveting, entertaining, and take you on many different musical journeys. Now, I always like to start these videos off by telling you how I got into the band, and it's pretty much how most Americans did, by hearing the song Female of the Species, which is just an amazingly weird and wonderful song. Now, when I say weird, I mean that's a term of endearment. It's a badge of honor, because they create music that is completely, doesn't really follow a formula, but yet it still has all these great hooks and melodies, and the songs are somewhat enchanting as well, because they are so out there that you were just hooked from the beginning until the end. Absolutely fabulous. Let's start with their catalog. Now, their first album was called Spiders. It came out in 1996. This is the album with Female of the Species and so many other great songs like Dark Clouds. Now, this is an expanded edition that I'll tell you about in just a little bit, that it has all non-album B-sides here. The interesting thing about this box set that I'll show you is that they added just all the non-album tracks. They didn't add any of the remixes, extended mixes. They just gave you the songs, and that's really how box sets should be, because their B-sides were just as creative, if not more so. But Spiders was a big album for them, especially in Europe and Japan. And here in America, like I said, Female of the Species was a big song. This is completely, wholly unique. Didn't sound like any of their other Britpop contemporaries. Absolutely a wonderful album. Their second album is called Tin Planet, and this came out in 1998. This is even poppier, more melodic, maybe a little less strange, less weird, but still eclectic and eccentric nonetheless. Again, another CD that features bonus tracks. Now, this album has the hits Avenging Angels, which in my opinion, sounds like it could be a James Bond theme. It also has the song The Ballad of Tom Jones, which is a duet between Tommy Scott and, I think her name is pronounced Cirrus Matthews, from the band Catatonia. And Tin Planet was an absolutely wonderful album. Fantastic. But this wasn't released in the US, which blows my mind, because it was even more commercial than the first album. Speaking of not being released, the band put out a single called Diary of a Wimp, which was their best single to date, and it was going to be the first single taken from their third album, Love You More Than Football. Well, the thing about Love You More Than Football is the album was never released, and the band were at loggerheads with the label, and eventually they left the label, and this album remained in the vaults until it came out in a box set that I'm still going to tell you about in just a few minutes. So there's Love You More Than Football. Lots of great poppy tunes on here. Maybe not quite as commercial as Tin Planet. It was probably somewhere between the first album and Tin Planet, but still some excellent songs, great songs. This is something that just blows my mind, how this sat in the vaults for so long. But that was supposed to come out in the year 2000, and it never did until it came out in the box set. Now, the band went indie, and it took another 4 years for them to put out another album, but then they put out the album called Suburban Rock and Roll. And it's a wonderful, wonderful album. It's not as produced as their previous albums, but still the songs are there. They're still eccentric, still eclectic. I hate using those words, so often, but this band kind of defies categorization. I mean, they were out during the Britpop era, but they weren't really playing Britpop. They were just playing strange, odd, wonderful, wonderful music. Super catchy, super great. But unfortunately, the band broke up after this album, and in 2009, drummer Andy Parle died, and that sort of instigated a reunion of the band. Now, the loss of Andy Parle definitely inspired the band members to get back together and to give it another shot. Now, the only band members from the original lineup that remained were Tommy Scott and Franny Griffiths, and then they put out the album called Attack of the Mutant 50-Foot Kebab. If I mentioned eccentric and eclectic before, it goes even further. Like songs like She's in Love with a Boy in the Body Bag and Crying on the Webcam. It's just defies logic, and it's wonderful. This is the version that contains 2 bonus tracks. Now, before I continue, let me tell you about the box set, and it contains all of those albums with bonus tracks, and it contains a 6th CD featuring more bonus tracks that didn't make those CDs, including their very first single that came out before the release of the debut album. It's a really, really great collection called The Anthology, and it's definitely worth your while. So odd, wonderful, and out there. Fantastic. So that covers that part of their career. In 2017, they came back with another album called Give Me Your Future, which I think that this is actually better than the previous 2 in terms of just great melodic songs. Suburban Rock and Roll and Attack of the Mutant 50-Foot Kebab are really fine albums, but I think Give Me Your Future was an even better album song-wise. Fantastic. Lots of great hooks, and this is the release of that album. Now, the band did return in 2021 with an album called Music for Pleasure, Music for Pain. The sound of the album goes back to the debut, where it's a lot more keyboardy, mixed with, maybe some hip hop beats. The songs are not as catchy as their previous albums, but they're still wicked, wild, wonderful, and unique, and taking you on musical journeys. And that's really what matters with a band like Space. They are trying new and different things. And while I don't feel that this album is as successful, it's one of those albums that I feel that is just going to grow on me over time, and then I will love it as much as anything else. Now, that is it with their studio albums. Let me quickly go through a couple compilations that I would recommend. If you like extended mixes and such, there is Invasion of the Spiders, which is a Japanese-only CD that features remixed and unreleased tracks, and that is full of fun. And while I don't always listen to extended or 12-inch mixes, it's still fascinating to hear how somebody will break a song down and rebuild it, and I do love the excitement behind that. Now, if you're more or less looking for maybe some kind of compilation, one is Greatest Hits and Unreleased Bits, which has many of their hits and, as the title suggests, unreleased songs, which were from the Love You More Than Football album, because it had not been released at this time. Now, the collection that I think that I prefer and I would recommend, if you're able to find it, is Greatest Hits, the Collector's Edition. It's a 2-CD set. It's got a lot of great Space hits on it, as well as B-sides, rarities, and a whole lot more on disc 2. Definitely a compilation to keep your eye out for. Lots of great material on there. Like I said, they're unique, they're wonderful, they're wild, they're eclectic, they're eccentric. Now, you yourself, you're going to be able to experience Space right now, because I've put together a medley featuring sound bites from 2 songs from each of the albums. So you're going to hear more than just Female of the Species. But sit back, relax, enjoy, and I'll see you on the other side.
How can heaven hold a place for me when a girl like you has cast a spell on me? Oh, how can heaven hold a place for me? Dark clouds drift away to reveal the sunshine. Dark clouds drift away. Calling all avenging angels, angels, kick-ass angels. Calling all avenging. You stopped us from killing each other. You'll never know, but you saved our lives. I've never thrown my. Believe me, you gotta believe me, 'cause I'm crying like a wind over you. Oh, I'm crying like a wind. I'm crying like a wind over you. You know we've got a lot of good times ahead of us. You know we've got a lot. I hate that coward in my dreams. He steps in front of every goal. Life's a suburban rock and roll.
Rock and roll.
Life's a suburban rock and roll. Living in my body prison. I just know it's love we're missing. We're all zombies when it comes to love. Ain't your fault, love. Oh no, ain't your fault, fella. Oh no, it ain't your fault, love. Oh no, you ain't no fortune teller. Oh no, it ain't. She's in love with a boy in a body bag. Body bag, boy in a body to a boy like me. I could live in a home with a girl like you. It might be a man-made fantasy, but would you give a home to a boy like me? Your home full of weird and wonderful people. It's your home full of weird and wonderful people. Come on, sit your ass. Feline, feline, show me all your clothes. Feline, feline, kiss me where I sew. Feline, feline, show me all your clothes.
Anyway, that's it. I really appreciate you sitting here and allowing me to talk about the group Space. I hope that you enjoyed the medley. Let me know what you think of the band. Let me know if you're already a fan. And please, just know that I appreciate you. Remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, to ring that bell for future notifications. And remember me, I'm Steve Schnee, the CD Junkie.